You were reading the newspapers while sitting at the kitchen island, sipping a warm cup of coffee on a cold winter day. You were proudly reading word by word of the news about the recently caught criminal you and Pikachu managed to arrest and bring to justice. And as you were smiling while reading the news, your buddy and your detective pal, Pikachu, came and hopped his fuzzy body onto the counter to read with you. "We really nailed that case now, didn't we?" Pikachu chuckled, now reading with you. Pikachu smirked to himself and chuckled smugly, proud of the work you two have done together. He hopped himself off the counter and leaned on your shoulder, still reading the news with you and letting out an approving hum to himself. "We make one hell of a team, don't we?" Pikachu's ears perked up, his eyes narrowing playfully as he scanned the newspaper again. Word on the street says there's been a string of odd disappearances near Saffron City. Pokeballs turning up empty, trainers vanishing without a trace. He leaned closer, voice dropping to a whisper. And get this, someone reported seeing shadowy figures with glowing red eyes. Sounds like our kind of mystery. Pikachu's tail stood straight up, the electricity coursing through his fur in anticipation. The thought of an exciting challenge clearly sparking his eagerness. "Well, partner, what are we waiting for? Let's roll to Saffron City and see what kind of trouble those shadowy figures are up to." With a quick jump, he perched himself on your shoulder, ready for the journey ahead. Pikachu's nose twitched as he pulled out a tiny notepad from his pouch, flipping through pages with dramatic flair. Okay. First lead. A trainer named Sparky went missing near the Saffron City gym. His last sighting? Talking to some shady guy in a trench coat by the old Pokémart. He flipped another page, tail sparking. And get this, someone saw that same trench coat creep buying a whole crate of mystery berries. Which either means he's running an underground juice bar, a mischievous grin spread across his face, or we're dealing with something way juicier than just bad smoothies. Pikachu rolled his eyes, shaking his head in a playful mockery. "Oh, of course you're stuck on the fruit and berries part. Figures you're more interested in snacks than solving mysteries, huh, partner?" He smirked, leaning in closer. "Though, it could be fun to grab some smoothies later, just to compare flavors. For investigative purposes, naturally." Pikachu couldn't hold back a little chuckle, amused by your response, before refocusing on the matter at hand. "Hey, keep your Pokeballs in mind, not your stomachs," he teased, flicking your ear playfully. "Let's focus on finding this trenchcoat guy first. Then we can worry about satisfying your sweet tooth." Pikachu nodded, hopping off your shoulder and landing on the ground with a soft thump. His ears stood upright, alert and ready for action. "You got it. Let's catch this shady character." And with a determined look, the two of you set off for Saffron City, the thrill of the chase in the air. Pikachu's ears perked up, his keen eyes darting forward to follow your gaze. He squinted, peering at something in the distance. "Looks like," he started, voice trailing off as he focused. "Some movement by that abandoned building over there. Could be our trench coat guy." He tensed, alert, tail sparking and ready for action. "Let's check it out. Stay sharp, partner." Pikachu sniffed the air, the fur on his tail standing on end as he scanned the surroundings. The abandoned building loomed ominously, its walls covered in graffiti and boarded windows giving the area a creepy, desolate feel. "You're right. No signs of recent activity or any human presence." He cautiously padded forward, ears twitching. "Something about this place doesn't sit right. Stay close, all right?" Pikachu's ears flattened as a sudden movement caught his eye. Without warning, an old desk chair came flying through the air, hurtled by an invisible force towards your direction. "Look out!" With lightning-fast reflexes, Pikachu tackled you out of the way, shielding you just in time as the furniture smashes against the ground where you were standing. Pikachu's eyes widened as he spotted the floating Gengar, its ghostly form smirking with mischief. The air grew colder, and a chill ran down your spine. Well, well, looks like we've got ourselves some uninvited guests, Pikachu muttered under his breath. A Gengar? That explains the flying furniture. He turned to you, tail sparking in preparation for battle. You ready to handle this little prankster? Pikachu's expression grew more serious as he pondered your question. The Gengar continued to float there, its eyes gleaming with a sly, playful intent. Good point. A Gengar rarely appears alone. Pikachu scanned the area, his nose twitching as he sniffed the air. Keep your guard up. The trainer with the trench coat could be nearby. Pikachu's body crackled with energy as electricity surged through him. With a fierce cry of Pika, he lunged forward, launching himself towards the Gengar. In an instant, Pikachu struck the Gengar with a powerful bolt tackle. Sparks flew as the attack connected, the Gengar reeling back from the impact, its form wavering. Pikachu frowned, stepping back and regarding the Gengar cautiously. He sniffed the air again, a hint of suspicion in his eyes. You're right. Something doesn't feel normal. It's not putting up much of a fight. And its form, it's a little misty, like it's not fully focused. He leaned in, squinting at the Gengar intently. Be on your guard. This could be a trap. This could be a trap. Pikachu's ears shot up, his eyes narrowing as he spotted the ranger cap peeking out from behind a pile of rubble. His tail sparked with sudden realization. Wait, that's not our guy. He tilted his head, studying it carefully before muttering. Either someone dropped their gear, or we're being led somewhere else on purpose. A slow smirk crept across his face as he turned to you. Think this is bait? Or are we dealing with an actual rookie ranger in trouble? Pikachu's smirk widened into a playful grin. Spell Ranger backwards? Oh ho, good one. Let's see. He paused theatrically, a paw to his chin as if deep in thought. Reverse it, so, Nair? Nair, wait a minute. He snapped his paw down, realization dawning on his face. Nair, that's Gengar backwards. Pikachu's eyes widened with sudden understanding, his tail standing straight up as electricity crackled through his fur. Wait, so the real clue wasn't just a ranger cap? He hopped in place, gears turning fast. The trainer we're chasing? He left us this little breadcrumb trail on purpose. That means... A mischievous grin spread across his face as he turned to you. He wants us to catch him. This whole thing is one big game. Pikachu froze, his triumphant grin suddenly freezing midway up his face. Heh! He looked back at the Gengar, the realization crashing into him like a brick. The Gengar? You think it's the Ranger? He squinted, eyeing the Gengar carefully. The Gengar just floated there, its eyes gleaming with an almost amused glint. Pikachu's tail drooped slightly. Huh, I hadn't considered that. Pikachu's eyes widened in sudden realization, his tail drooping slightly as he looked down at his paws, then back up at the Gengar. Wait. He hopped onto a nearby crate for better height, squinting hard at the ghost Pokémon still floating there, completely unharmed from Bolt Tackle, despite being an electric-type move meant to have no effect on ghost types. Unless... A slow smirk spread across his face as it clicked. So that's why you were playing along. You're not just some random Gengar. His voice dropped to a whisper. You're our guy all along. Pikachu's eyes snapped wide as the Gengar, no, the trainer, began drifting backward, clearly preparing to bolt. Oh no, you don't! He lunged forward with a burst of speed. Ah! His bolt tackle this time was aimed not at the ghost Pokémon itself, but at its shadowy feet, where it hovered. Electricity surged through his tiny body as he struck true, sending sparks flying and forcing the Gengar to flicker violently in place, before letting out an exaggerated gasp. Pikachu skidded to a stop, panting and sparks still dancing across his fur. Gengar, now fully revealed as the trainer himself, reeled from the impact, his shadowy form flickering and wavering before he slumped to his knees and put his hands in the air in surrender. "You got me," he panted, a wry grin on his face. "Guess I underestimated you, huh?" Pikachu puffed out his chest proudly, sparks of electricity still dancing along his cheeks. "Yep, time to crack this case wide open." He turned back toward the defeated trainer, Ranger, Ghost, whatever he was, and smirked. "All right, buddy, let's get you somewhere with real walls, and maybe some hot chocolate while we chat." The Gengar, now unmasked as the Ranger himself, let out a defeated sigh, shaking his head and slowly getting to his feet. "Fine, fine. You win this time, detectives," he said with a hint of amusement. "Lead the way. I suppose I can't keep up the act anymore after that performance." The Ranger crossed his arms, the remnants of his Gengar disguise flickering away as he let out a weary sigh. "Because I had to. The real culprit, the one behind all those disappearances, is using Rangers like pawns in their game. And if I went in as myself, they'd have seen me coming." A bitter smirk tugged at his lips, so, yeah, had to go full ghost mode. The Ranger's smirk faded, his expression turning grim as he exchanged a glance with Pikachu before answering. "The real culprit? A certain Team Rocket operative who thinks they're being clever by framing Rangers. They have been snatching Pokémon and trainers alike, disguised as ghosts." He sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "As for attacking you two, that was part of the act. Had to sell it, so they wouldn't suspect I was onto them." Pikachu nodded grimly in agreement, his ears twitching. This case was getting bigger than he initially thought. "No kidding. Sounds like Team Rocket's up to some next-level schemes now." He turned his gaze toward the now de-disguised Ranger. "We need more info on this operative. You got any more details for us?" The Ranger grimaced, clearly uneasy at the thought of the Team Rocket operative. "Not much. They go by the code name Spectre, tall, always wearing a trench coat and a fedora." He ran a hand through his hair, his eyes narrowing as he continued. "They're smart. Always seem to be one step ahead, no matter how many times I get close to catching them. And they never work alone. There's always an entire crew with them. A real pain in the rear end, let me tell you." Pikachu listened intently, his tail bristling with anticipation. Spectre, the name alone sounded dark, sinister. Not a good sign. So this Spectre, a smart, sneaky Team Rocket operative with a whole crew at their back, huh? He mused, exchanging a worried glance with you. "Sounds like we're up against the big leagues here. But we can handle him." The Ranger nodded, his expression serious. "Yeah, I heard whispers that Spectre was planning their next operation at a nearby abandoned Pokémart. That's why I was there, watching for any suspicious activity. They're using those deserted places as temporary bases, moving from one spot to the next so they're harder to track down. The usual Team Rocket MO." He crossed his arms, his expression tightening. "If we act fast, we might catch them in the middle of setting up their next scheme." Pikachu's tail lashed with determination, sparks dancing across his cheek as he gave a firm nod. "You heard the Ranger, partner. No time to waste." With that, he hopped onto your shoulder and motioned for the Ranger to lead the way. "Take us to that abandoned Pokémart. We've got some rockets to catch." The Ranger nodded grimly, leading the way through the darkened streets of Saffron City. The abandoned Pokémart loomed into view in the distance, its windows shattered and walls covered in the telltale signs of vandalism. "This is it," he said in a low voice, pausing before the crumbling building. "Be on your guard. Spectre and their crew might be inside, setting up their latest scheme as we speak." Pikachu nodded in agreement, his tail twitching in anticipation. The tension in the air was palpable as they slowly approached the darkened Pokémart. Right, we go in carefully. No sudden moves or loud noises, he murmured, eyes darting around the area, scanning for any signs of movement. The ranger took point, slowly pushing open the creaking door and leading the way into the abandoned building, one hand on a Pokeball at his hip. Pikachu frowned as they stepped inside the dark, deserted interior of the Pokémart. He sniffed the air cautiously, his senses on high alert as he took in their surroundings. Empty. And no recent signs of Team Rocket activity either. The ranger sighed, glancing around the wrecked, abandoned store. Disappointment was clear on his face. Looks like we got outplayed. They probably caught wind of us closing in and abandoned their little hideout. Again. Pikachu nodded in agreement, his tail flicking in determination as he began scouring the abandoned Pokémart for something. Anything that could point to where Team Rocket may have gone next. Yeah, good call. They might have left something behind. A clue, scrap of paper, anything. The ranger joined them, searching the dusty shelves and overturned display cases for any sign of Spectre's crew. The sound of their footsteps echoed through the hollow building. Pikachu paused in his search, his ears perking up at your words. He darted over to join you, eyes zeroing in on the item you found. What have you got? He asked, peering over the edge of an overturned counter to see what you were holding. Pikachu's eyebrows raised in surprise as he caught a glimpse of the flyer in your hand. He carefully took it from you, squinting at the writing on the page. Pokémon Trade and Breeding Expo, a Pokémon trade show? Wait, what's this? He tilted the flyer, revealing a hastily scribbled note beneath the main text. Pikachu's tail bristled as he leaned closer to read it. The note was a short message, written in messy handwriting. It read, "Come one, come all to the annual Pokémon Trade and Breeding Expo, showcasing the finest exotic Pokémon and rare breeding techniques. Don't miss this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Held at the abandoned warehouse east of Vermilion City." Pikachu's eyes widened as he finished reading, a smirk spreading across his face as he looked up at you. Bingo! This is their next move. Pikachu nodded, his eyes glinting with determination as he clenched the flyer tightly in his paw. It all suddenly made sense. Using a bait-and-switch with the real Pokémon Expo flyer to lure in unsuspecting trainers and their valuable Pokémon. Classic Team Rocket tactics. That's exactly what they're doing. They're creating a phony expo to serve as a cover for some major poaching scheme. They'll lure people in with the promise of rare Pokémon trades and rare breeding techniques, then, bam, swoop in and make their move. Sneaky. The ranger clenched his fist, anger flashing in his eyes as he understood the full scope of Team Rocket's plan. And those poor, unsuspecting trainers, they'll be walking right into a trap, completely unaware. This is a disaster waiting to happen unless we get there and stop it. We have to get to that warehouse fast, before the fake expo starts. The ranger perked up at your words, a spark of hope in his eyes as he straightened to attention. Let's hear it, he said firmly, clearly ready to put an end to Team Rocket's schemes once and for all. The ranger's eyes widened as he realized the audacity of the plan you had in mind. After a moment, however, a grin spread across his face and he nodded firmly. Heh, now we're thinking like a detective. Yeah, I can definitely pull it off, no problem at all. He paused, considering the risks. But in the end, a determined gleam shone in his eyes. I can do it. I'll act as the perfect spy and infiltrate the Team Rocket operation from within. The ranger nodded, a steely determination in his eyes. The plan was risky, but it was their best shot at gaining the upper hand on Team Rocket's scheme. He took a deep breath, preparing himself for the potentially dangerous situation he would be walking into. I won't let you down. I'll infiltrate the warehouse, learn as much as I can about their operation, and then signal you and Pikachu to pounce. The ranger nodded with grim determination, his mind already going over the potential outcomes of the plan. He knew there was a chance things could go wrong, but the thought of stopping Team Rocket's scheme and saving those innocent Pokémon from their clutches made it all worth the risk. Tonight it is. You can count on me. I'll be the best damn spy anyone's ever seen. Pikachu hopped onto your shoulder, his tail sparking with anticipation as he gave you a determined nod. Then it's settled. Ranger plays decoy, gets captured, and feeds us intel from the inside, and we wait for the signal before crashing their little fake expo party. He smirked, cracking his knuckles metaphorically. And when we do, Spectre won't know what hit him. You, Pikachu, and the Ranger set off toward the abandoned warehouse, sticking close to the shadows as they crept through the night. Every sound made Pikachu's ears twitch and alert. There was no telling what traps Team Rocket might have set to guard their operation. The warehouse loomed into view, its darkened windows and boarded-up entrance giving an even more sinister vibe in the dark of night. The plan had been set, and there was no going back now. The Ranger's heart pounded in his chest as the time to execute the plan arrived. He took a deep breath, steeling himself for what was to come. With shaking hands, he donned the Gengar costume, transforming into a perfect copy of the shadow Pokémon before your eyes. The Ranger, now fully disguised as a Gengar, floated ominously toward the warehouse entrance, his ghostly form flickering in the moonlight. He turned back one last time to give you and Pikachu a subtle thumbs up before slipping inside. Pikachu's ears perked up from his hiding spot nearby, tail crackling with silent energy. All right, now we wait for his signal. Hours ticked by as you and Pikachu waited in nervous silence, your eyes glued to the darkened warehouse entrance. Every sound seemed to grow louder in the tense atmosphere, the minutes dragging on like an eternity. Pikachu fidgeted anxiously, his tail lashing back and forth as he watched the entrance, like a hawk. "Summon, Ranger," he whispered. "Give the signal already." Pikachu's ears shot straight up as the familiar, grating Team Rocket theme echoed from inside the warehouse. His tail sparked violently. This wasn't just some coincidence. Oh no, they're already throwing a full-blown party in there. He hissed, scanning for any sign of movement or danger around them. This isn't good. They might be about to make their move if they're playing that song now. Pikachu's tail twitched as he put the pieces together. The blaring Team Rocket song, the fact that the Ranger had succeeded in infiltrating Team Rocket's warehouse without much fuss. A sly smirk slowly grew across Pikachu's face as he nodded, realizing the plan was working better than they'd hoped. Looks like the Ranger's disguise worked perfectly. Team Rocket's completely bought into the fact that he's just another ghost Pokémon they've captured. Pikachu's attention shifted from scanning the warehouse entrance to you, tilting his head in confusion at your sudden question. Something up, partner? Pikachu's eyebrows raised slightly, surprised by the sudden question, but he didn't miss a beat as he began explaining. Well, Team Rocket has a few methods. Sometimes they use Pokeballs to just outright catch them. Other times they'll use other tricks like traps, nets, gas bombs, or just straight up force to capture Pokémon they're after. It all depends on the situation, really. He tilted his head, eyeing you curiously. Why do you ask, though? Pikachu's eyes widened as the realization hit him, and his expression darkened. When Team Rocket would inevitably try to catch the Ranger. "Oh, that's what you were getting at," he said grimly, his tail lashing with growing worry. "If they throw a Pokeball at the Ranger disguised as a Gengar, it'll catch him and he'll be sucked into the Pokeball for real, like any other captured Pokemon." Pikachu froze, the realization sinking into his brain. Of course. The Ranger was human, not a Pokémon. And Pokeballs only worked on actual Pokémon. Wait, you're right, he exclaimed, his eyes widening as he looked toward the darkened warehouse. If Team Rocket tries to throw a Pokeball at the Ranger while he's disguised as a Gengar, the Pokeball won't work on him. It'll just bounce off. Pikachu's face paled as the gravity of the situation sank in. They'd been so focused on the plan succeeding that they'd completely overlooked the one crucial fact. The Ranger was human and not an actual Pokémon. Oh God, we need to act fast, he exclaimed, his tail sparking with alarm. If Team Rocket realizes the Ranger isn't a real Gengar, then he's in serious danger. We gotta move and get him out before it's too late. With a new sense of urgency, Pikachu sprang into action. He darted toward the warehouse entrance, signaling for you to follow as he prepared to charge in and save the Ranger from certain disaster. Come on, we don't have a second to lose, he called out, his voice filled with determination as he braced himself to face Team Rocket head-on. Pikachu skidded to a halt as the scene unfolded before them. Team Rocket grunts and their Pokémon mid-battle against the Ranger? No, wait, his Gengar disguise had slipped just enough for Team Rocket to realize he wasn't an actual ghost Pokémon. Oh no, Pikachu whispered under his breath. They figured it out. Pikachu didn't hesitate. With a sharp cry of Pika, he lunged into the fray, electricity surging through his body as he charged at Team Rocket's Pokémon with a powerful thunderbolt. Stay back, he barked at them, buying time for you and the Ranger to act. Now visibly struggling against Team Rocket's Pokémon with his disguise slipping further, shot you a brief, grateful but weary glance. Don't worry about it. Just get me out of here, he called back before rolling to dodge another attack from one of their Magikarps. Pikachu blinked, briefly baffled by the sight of Team Rocket using a Magikarp in battle. It seemed like such an odd choice for a villain organization, given Magikarp's notorious reputation. Yeah, he said, his eyes narrowing at the flopping fish Pokémon. Why in the world are they using that? A frickin' Magikarp? Pikachu suddenly froze, his eyes widening as the realization hit him like a thunderbolt. Wait, Magikarp? That's not just any Pokémon. Team Rocket must be using for something big. A slow grin spread across his face as he turned to you and the Ranger. They're after its evolution potential. A fully evolved Gyarados is one of the most powerful water types around, and they clearly want one for their schemes. Pikachu didn't waste another second. With a fierce cry of "Pah!" launched himself at Team Rocket's Magikarp, tail crackling with electricity as he aimed for a quick and decisive bolt tackle. Don't worry about the plan anymore, just win this fight. The Ranger wasted no time. With a sharp motion, he tore off the Gengar costume, revealing his true form as Team Rocket's grunts and Pokémon faltered in confusion at their sudden change in target. Now, let's end this, he shouted before quickly summoning his own Pokémon to join the battle. The Ranger's Pokémon, a powerful Alakazam, materialized in a flash of light, its psychic aura crackling as it locked onto Team Rocket's forces. The battle had reached its final stage. All right, Pikachu, the Ranger said with newfound determination. Let's finish this together. Pikachu grinned and nodded fiercely before launching into action once more. Pikachu's tail sparked with renewed energy as he and Alakazam fought back-to-back against Team Rocket. The grunts were scrambling now, their confidence crumbling under the unexpected counterattack. Pika! Pika P! He called out, weaving between attacks and landing precision thunderbolts on their Pokémon, while Alakazam's psychic waves kept them off balance. With a final synchronized strike from both partners, Team Rocket's forces were overwhelmed. The remaining grunts raised their hands in surrender, as Pikachu stood victorious beside the ranger. The Team Rocket grunts were panting and shaken, but they still bristled defiantly at your question. You think we'd tell you? The Spectre would have our heads if we did. A tall grunt spat, his eyes narrowing stubbornly. Even if you defeat us, you'll never find him. Pikachu's eyes narrowed as he studied the grunt's defiance. He hopped closer, his voice low but firm. Oh yeah? Then tell me this. If you won't, who do you think will save you from what comes next? A tense silence hung in the air before one of them finally cracked under Pikachu's stare. A shorter grunt, the youngest one of them, hesitantly spoke up, his voice trembling as he met Pikachu's gaze. Fine, we'll tell you. Just don't hurt us. The young grunt swallowed hard before continuing, his voice barely above a whisper. Spectre's not our boss. He's just one of many lieutenants under the real leader. Pikachu's ears perked up at this revelation, exchanging a glance with you and the ranger. Wait, so there's someone bigger than Spectre pulling all this together? Pikachu's tail drooped slightly as the realization sank in. The situation was even more complex and dangerous than they'd originally thought. Yeah, this just got a lot worse, he muttered, glancing at the trembling Team Rocket grunts before turning back to you and the ranger with newfound determination. But we don't have time to dwell on it. We need answers. The young grunt hesitated, glancing at his fellow grunts for confirmation before finally speaking up. Spectre is just one of 5 lieutenants working under the real boss. There's also a Volt, who handles their tech stuff, Blaze, the muscle behind their attacks, and a few others I don't know names for. He swallowed hard before continuing. As for who's really in charge, that part, we don't actually know either. The lieutenants answer to someone called the Director. But no one outside that inner circle knows anything about them. Pikachu's expression darkened further. 5 lieutenants, and a mysterious director pulling the strings from behind the scenes. The scope of Team Rocket's operation was only growing larger and more complicated by the second. Great. So we've got a bunch of higher-level bad guys to deal with, and all we know about their boss is that they go by the Director. Could this get more convoluted? Pikachu's ears perked up as he considered the question, his mind racing with possible leads. Well, if they're all working under this Director guy, then we need to track down one of those lieutenants and follow them. Spectre was already on our radar before tonight. A slow smirk spread across his face as an idea struck him. Or better yet, we find where they stash their stolen Pokémon. They'll have a base somewhere safe, which means someone important is guarding it. The already frightened young grunt nearly jumped out of his skin at your sudden outburst, his face paling. Whoa! Okay, all right. I'll tell you anything. Just don't hurt me. The young grunt stammered, his voice trembling as he answered. We don't know where the Director is either. They never show up in person. Only give orders through encrypted messages. The lieutenants are the only ones who get direct commands. The young grunt hesitated, his eyes darting nervously before he finally answered. It's, Lieutenant Volt who handles most of our orders. Spectre just oversees the operations. Volt actually delivers the commands. The grunt fidgeted, shifting his weight nervously before answering. We should get our new orders tomorrow evening. Volt comes in person to deliver them then. The young grunt's eyes widened with fear as he realized your plan. You're going to wait here for Volt? Are you serious? Pikachu's tail lashed with determination. His eyes narrowed in resolve. He gave the grunt a firm nod. Damn right we are. We need answers, and we'll be here when your lieutenant arrives. The young grunt paled as he realized the implication, his fellow grunts also looking horrified. You're gonna lock us up, he squeaked out in terror. Please don't, we'll cooperate. The young grunt nodded rapidly, eager to be cooperative now. His fellow grunts also nodded along, clearly hoping to avoid any further trouble. Yeah, we've told you everything we know, we swear. The ranger gave a firm nod before gesturing for his own Pokémon to step forward and herd the terrified Team Rocket grunts out of the warehouse. They were clearly too shaken to put up any resistance. Come on, move it! He barked at them, making sure they were escorted far enough away so they wouldn't be able to interfere with your next plan. Once the grunts were out of earshot, Pikachu let out a long sigh, his tail sagging in exhaustion. Well, that was close. He glanced back at you, eyes narrowing as he considered the new information. 5 lieutenants, and this director pulling the strings from behind the scenes. Not to mention Volt coming in to give them new orders tomorrow. Damn, this just keeps getting more complicated. Pikachu's ears twitched as he turned to you, his expression a mix of exhaustion and determination. Yeah, but complicated doesn't mean impossible. We've cracked harder cases than this before. He hopped onto your shoulder, tail sparking with renewed energy as he looked back at the warehouse where Team Rocket had been operating from. Tomorrow night, when Volt shows up, we make our move. No more waiting around for answers. Pikachu's eyes widened at the suggestion, a slow grin spreading across his face as he nodded in agreement. Now that's thinking. If we go undercover as Team Rocket grunts, then Volt won't suspect a thing when he shows up to deliver their orders. A mischievous spark danced through his tail. We'll get all the intel we need, and maybe even follow him back to wherever this director is hiding. Pikachu's grin widened as he jumped down from your shoulder and paced back and forth in front of you, already going over the plan in his head. All right then. We'll disguise ourselves as a couple of very eager Team Rocket grunts, get as much info as we can from Volt, and then slip away once the meeting's over, following him back to their base, and finally discovering who's behind all this. Sounds like a plan to me. The ranger gave a tired smile as he called back his Alakazam, the Pokémon vanishing back into its Pokeball with a flash of light. Thanks, we've been working together for a while now. We made a pretty good team back there. He leaned against a nearby crate, clearly exhausted, but his eyes still showed a determined glimmer. So, what now? The ranger straightened up, his expression shifting from exhaustion to resolve as he met your gaze. Damn right I am. We're this close to cracking Team Rocket's operation wide open, and there's no way I'm backing out now. A smirk tugged at the corner of his mouth as he crossed his arms. So yeah, let's go all the way.